Hi everyone and welcome to this new session of ChatGPT Tax. And today I'm happy to welcome Magnus Pantzar for our discussion.
Magnus, would you introduce yourself?
Thank you. I'm happy to be here. Yes, my name is Magnus Pantzar. I'm the Global Head of Tax at EQT, a Swedish-listed private equity company. And I've been in this function for almost 11 years now. And I used to come from the advisory side, where just immediately before I joined EQT, I was a TT partner, as we say at EY, heading the Nordic private equity tax structuring group.
So over 11 years, you have grown a big team at EQT. You've went from a single person to almost 35 people now. How was that journey? Can you tell us more about it?
Overwhelming. No, but as you said, I started more or less with myself only. I was actually asked to come over to EQT to be responsible for transaction services, basically making sure that we did the acquisition of portfolio companies in the funds in a good manner. That was also what I was doing as an advisory part at EY. But then I had an accidental career at EQT. I was asked after a year or so to actually head the whole tax practice, which was back then only myself again, but a wider scope of the thing, which meant that I needed to start to focus on compliance, fund structuring, all other stuff that comes with the function. So that was a journey, and to cut a long story short, requirements came. I felt that I didn't have sufficient bandwidth to handle all these things. So the first, say, 3-4 years, I hired relatively senior people managing certain very clear defined areas. Actually, to be honest, those areas that was formed, say, in 2016, 2017, still apply at EQT. So we talk about house matters being handling the tax affairs of any platform, really. Fund structuring and carry structuring. Thirdly, what I started with was the deal support in the funds. And then as the fourth pillar, if you so wish, all compliance that comes with all other stuff.
And how did you see the evolution of the tax function within the firm? Did it evolve over the years, and your basically the relationship with other departments? How was the evolution on that basis?
That's a really good question, and I think that my experience is probably very similar to what other people have felt and gone through in any, I would say, fast-growing organization. When you start and you represent, call it a expert discipline, then it's very easy to sit down with decision makers in a small organization and try to adopt and, well, perhaps not trial and error, but something close to it, very informally discuss how you would like to navigate in whatever area. At the time when the organization grows, there are more governance levels, there are more people kind of being involved. So that is where you need to have a certain amount of musicality to go between informal decision makers and formal decision makers. And I think that, again, try to summarize, a tax function should, in a private equity firm, try to be not perceived as an expert function to sign off things, a back office thing. Where we add most value is where we are present in the commercial discussions around the commercial table, because that is how we can add much more value. So I've tried to answer your question. I have always tried to strive to build my team and to, I would say, develop my team so we are invited very early in all processes, because that's where we can make difference. Otherwise, you could end up in a situation where a lot of water has gone under the bridges in any project, and then, oh, we should ask tax to sign off. And we are presented with whatever, and we can see it doesn't work. So we have lost time, we have lost efforts.
And you come with the
in
bad
exploring,
news.
and I come with the bad news, and then it's kind of we are the party poopers, right? And that is not how you should try to position a tax and structuring team with any private equity firm.
And there's also, I think, over the time you've spent there, I think there's not only team growing, but laws growing as well. You've had so many different additions with BEPS, etc. How did you navigate that with the team? Did you hire extra people, obviously, to accommodate all those needs? Or how was it internally, basically?
Yeah, I think that by a matter of principle, a tax team or a tax and structuring team, as we call it, you can be a lean team with an outsourced model and you rely heavily on advisors, or you can do things internally. I think that we have a mix. We have always had a lean model, a lean team with an outsourced model, because that is how we can focus on what is important, and also to contextualize the advice that comes and apply that into the organization. So that is something we are trying to do. And when I have built my team, I have started to get very senior people who could be responsible for this area to manage advisors. And then over time, they have needed also to build a team underneath themselves. But delegation is the key for me, to rely on my call it responsible people and let them drive the business and engage advisors as they see fit.
What have been the key challenges you faced over the last 10 years, and how did it help shape the team as it currently is?
Different challenges. I think that one is what I started talking about, which I think is that how do you navigate in a fast-growing organization? I think that most private equity firms, they are, at least from inception, partner-led organization. Over time they grow and you get the other governance levels. You have a CFOs, you have CEOs and what have you. And even if the direction of travel in a firm is very defined, there could be a situation where there's not clear alignment between, call it, partners and normal kind of governmental bodies necessarily, and that's something you need to be aware of and try to navigate that's a challenge, and I think that most people in my situation have felt the same thing. That is one challenge. The other thing is basically the whole universe of tax the last 10 years with international compliance burdens, whatever, just to keep up with the flow of international initiatives has been challenging as well.
And when dealing with Luxembourg over those years, did you see any kind of evolutions in a positive or negative ways in the way we handled certain tax affairs with the legislation? Did you see more or less flexibility in this time span and the attitude of let's say regulators and authorities towards the internal affairs?
Yeah, I think that probably Luxembourg has gone through the same kind of evolution. It's a fast-growing organization. When I started, Luxembourg was very manageable, easy to handle. We have always, well, I wouldn't say always, but at least the last 10, 12 years or so, we have been present in Luxembourg. And initially, it was very easy to get access to authorities. With the evolution, also Luxembourg authorities has been institutionalized in the say and grown. So it's with any country that is more difficult to get access quickly. But still, Luxembourg has become the established big hub for, I would say, sponsors and GPs, which is pretty clear because most, I would say, firms are here one way or the other.
Yeah.
So in a consolidated world where you apply kind of follow the sun model, where you have teams all over the world, how do you see the tax function, not specifically to EQT, but generally speaking, evolving in the next couple of years in order to make sure that PE houses keep on performing?
I'm not sure that EQT perhaps is, in these aspects, totally similar to many other houses. Now we compete with the biggest players. I think that we are now number 2 of the global private equity firms, at least in our ability to raise funds. I think that what we see is a clear globalization, and looking at the 3 time zones basically we operate. We have North America, Europe and Asia. EQT is becoming kind of, in loose terms, equally big in each jurisdiction, whereas most of our competitors are really, I would say, focused or have derived from very clearly, say, US, and that's still their core jurisdiction, and it's perhaps easier for them to structure if you have US, say, as an example, as the key jurisdiction to handle, whereas we now have a European legacy or Scandinavian legacy. We are growing into the US and try to find solutions, structures, way of working that fits all these jurisdictions. That's not easy, and there will be compromise, and compromise are sometimes challenged. Yeah.
And there's also, from my personal perspective, I started working 10 years ago. And obviously at that time it was more complicated than 20 years ago, just in terms of, all the norms you had to absorb just basically to be able to be operational. I can't imagine what it is starting in this world now. So I guess the younger generation will also need to be very fast in adapting to this changing world, to this different components you need to deal with. So I think it will also be something that is really challenging in a way, but I think the beginning will be a bit harder, I suspect, than the one, I would say, we here around this table used to have.
Oh yes, I mean, I'm a dinosaur now, right? But and I had the luxury of starting the business where I was able to focus on what I was trained to do. Yeah. I was trained to become a tax advisor. I was trained to give cutting edge kind of advice, right? Nowadays, the younger generation, where they start, this is one part. The whole, I would say, digital journey, the AI journey. I mean, people are not necessarily trained to do that. And it's a reality we need to capture. Just looking in my office, where I see younger people working, it's like, it's a different game. And on the one hand, it's probably easier for them to handle this evolution. On the other hand, it is still difficult because it's something that it's a platform or a layer that goes over and beyond what you are trained to do. Yeah.
Regarding talents and how you attract them and how you retain them. If you had something to say to someone that is, for instance, on the advisory side, that would like to make the bridge and maybe cross that bridge to in-house tax function, what would be the key elements that you think would be relevant for them to understand about the function so they can make an enlightened decision?
Yeah, I often get that question, to be honest. Advisors perceive themselves as being in the front seat, representing core business of the organization, whereas, again, loosely, let's say a tax function internally is a back office function. It will be what you do with the role. I mean, I think that my advice is, don't be afraid to make the leap. It is such good fun, and you are able to be as forward-leaning as you are as an advisor if you do it properly. So that is one thing. The other thing is that it's actually pretty fun to be part of an organization and see the evolution from an advice to implementation and result. Whereas an advisor, sometimes you jump from turf to turf, right? So yeah, I mean, I wouldn't I could put it this way. I would recommend people to do it because it's a great experience and great fun. Yeah.
Magnus, also another question. When you basically select advisors, what is basically what you expect from them, and more importantly, what do you expect from them in terms of deliverable and the qualities they're supposed to bring to the table? Yeah,
I mean, quality and the skill set, that's a given, obviously. We have the luxury of working with the biggest advisors in the world. So that is something we take and should take for granted. A good advisor, though, is someone that is a great communicator. It is, we are working with very complex matters, and to be able to describe and explain these topics in a way that also, because looking at internally, who are the people that receives the advice, even if we are facilitating everything from the tax side, most people doesn't speak the language of tax. So having great communicators with the advisors is key. Written form and orally as well. So that is one thing. Secondly, I think that knowing EQT and knowing us is key, because otherwise their advice could be perceived as theoretical or should work, but unless they know the operational burdens we have, the governance kind of structure we have, whatever, unless they know that clearly, the advice will not become as efficient as they should.
And also, it's easier for those who know you.
Yeah.
But for those who do not know you, basically, if you basically working with another provider, how would you then select it based on what criteria? Let's say beside the personal network that you may have.
We normally work with the big advisory firms from the legal side and kind of the tax side, and we have framework agreements with them. So very often, to be honest, we don't work with new teams, but we do have requirements, conditions with the teams we work. If there is a new team or new team members, they have a big responsibility to learn us, to know us, to make sure that when they are in a team or in a project, that they understand what kind of requirements we put on them. But on the other hand, how EQT works is a very decentralized model with a lot of decision makers out in, say, 24 countries or wherever we are present. So we give them a certain amount of freedom to pick and choose their own advisors depending on the context. But we are always there from a central side to guide them and make sure that they have the right framework agreements, right condition, and also could facilitate the discussion. So a new team, potentially, are able to get the right data points and the right knowledge from their central teams who know us better. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Magnus. It was a pleasure to have you with us. And for all of you, stay tuned.